All right, so if you would introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Don Cross. I am and have been a programmer most of my life, um, and I'm a member of the Omaha Maker Group.
All right, and how long have you been a member of the Omaha Maker Group?
I started coming to meetings about 8 years ago, just soon after they did their initial formation.
So what kinds of things have you been doing?
The things I like to do tend to be electronic and usually involve some kind of programming. Programming is my first in-depth joy. Other things I'm involved in a writer's group. I'm involved in a photography group. And I just hang out here to bug people.
So where did you learn some of the photography and the programming and those types of things? Formal training, or handed to you from your ancestors?
Technically, the programming was formal training, but I started back in 1975 in high school where I learned Fortran, and then I went to college and they taught us more Fortran, a little COBOL, a little bit of this and that. The nature of the field is when you get out and actually start becoming a professional programmer, you've discovered that the learning has just started and you have a great deal more that you have to dig into. So in a very real sense, a lot of it is self-taught and somewhat directed by what the company needs you to do, somewhat directed by what you want to do.
And so, what kinds of skills have you found valuable in self-teaching yourself these kinds of
being
things?
able to read, and that's probably my other big passion. I love to read. A wide range of stuff. It kind of feeds the writing. The overall word that really maps onto everything is creativity. Creativity just intrigues me. I see people doing things and I wish I was that creative. I see other people doing things and I'm standing there, I would do that different.
So what is your curiosity and interest in creativity led you to consider as how to acquire it, or how to encourage it, or how to cultivate it?
The internet has become a huge source of interesting information. Some of them more useful than others. Books and magazines really are still my primary source. I am one of the older members of this group, so I tend to still come out of the mindset really pre-internet. I use the internet, I value it, but really like the hands-on, being able to scribble in the pages, make notes in the edges, tear out the ones I don't like.
So if a young person were coming to you and wanting to do some of the things that you do at the space or recreationally, what kinds of tips and advice or resources would you recommend?
The first question is always, what are your interests? Because that's what's going to that's where the creativity will start cooking for them. If they're into robotics, then we can look at electronics and we can look at building mechanisms. If they're into photography, you can start talking about how light works and how cameras capture light, and what things you can play with the controls on a camera to impact how the image looks when you get done with it. If they're interested in writing the next great novel, then you talk about, well, what does it mean to define a character? What does it mean to define the setting where that character interacts? What does it mean to define all the other characters and the environment? I like to write sci-fi, so you start talking about world building. You actually build planets that everything takes place on. Or you may even build solar systems. And it's just what drives the interest, the immediate interest for whoever's looking.
Okay. And so your range of interests, including photography, writing, and electronics, seems a little wider than some of the other people. So where are the boundaries? Where do you think the edges are past which no longer a maker?
I'm going to say that the boundaries are pretty indefinite. Depending how much you buy into the Judeo-Christian ethic, if you accept that man was created in the image of God, well, God is the ultimate creator, so it just makes sense that man is going to have that drive to create as well. And I would argue also that it is the ability to create that moves man out of the element of victim and into the element of hunter-gatherer.
All right. So is there, I was having this conversation the other day with a guy over in Wyoming, and it was, we can say cooking is making, in a way. We can say that maybe writing a program, a piece of code, is making. Is learning a language making?
Absolutely. And practicing the language is doing the making. I mean, it's a multi-step process. Learning a language is generally a non-trivial thing. Depending on where you are in understanding linguistics. When I first started learning Spanish, I expected there would be one Spanish word for each English word, and all you had to do was memorize the Spanish word to know how to say it in Spanish. And it doesn't work that way. Spanish words map into memes, and that meme may cover a set of English words that really aren't necessarily always connected in English. Ideas, you find out ideals are very polymorphic, and understanding becomes an art. Conversation becomes a real art. I never actually achieved conversation. I can read a little. I learned enough to appreciate.
All right, so what sorts of benefits do makerspaces and makers offer the communities that house them?
A place, an outlet for curiosity. We can show off our toys and spark interests that may turn out to be quite tangent from where we started, and yet can be kind of fun to grow with someone else while they're exploring their interests. I won't say that none of us here had a big interest. Tesla coils are cool. I think everyone here would agree Tesla coils are cool. But we had a couple gentlemen join up so that they could build a large Tesla coil. And it's dramatic. But it wasn't an interest that the rest of us had. So we get to enjoy it because someone else came in with that interest, and we could help feed it, but we didn't have sufficient interest to do it ourselves.
And you have some things you maybe wanted to show? And see if we can get the camera to cooperate.
This is an example of my making with photography, and some of the pictures that I most appreciate are actually pictures of makers making. This is a blacksmith welding two strips of iron together. I don't know if you've ever seen the process, but he actually starts, gets the two pieces hot enough that he can bend them and merge them together. And then he puts the whole thing and gets it white hot, puts it on the anvil and strikes it very hard, and lots of excess material flies off. And if you're lucky, you can get a nice, interesting picture of it.
Yeah, we have a League of New Hampshire Craftsmen at where I'm from, and so every year you can go to this big craft fair where you can watch people blow glass and the blacksmith hammering metal, and that was always the booth I always went to watch. I love the blacksmith.
Glass, we have a place in town called the Hot Shops, and the reason it's called the Hot Shops is because it started with a glass blower, a bronze pourer, and a glass blower. And one of the open houses, I got this shot. And again, Okay, I'm going to say that 90% of the makers here are deeply intrigued by fire. Fire encompassed with loud noises is even better. So this is 1 out of 2. The third picture, I actually don't know if it's mine, but the picture is something my wife made for our first Power Wheels race car. She made the mascot for us, Steampunk Barbie. And I'm going to brag a little bit about my wife. She doesn't hang out here because she's not terribly social, but she loves to quilt, and so other things. And in my mind, she probably does more making than I get to.
All right. And so, is there anything else that I haven't asked about that you think is important to mention about your making, your wife's making, or making in general?
I think I kind of covered it, but in terms of making at a makerspace, the sense of community offers a mind expanding resource that just being your own little inventor in your own little basement cannot suffice. Community is by far the best feature of this makerspace.
All right. Well, thank you.